A long time ago, in a small village nestled in the hills of Galilee, a boy named Judas was born. The sun shone brightly on the fields of wheat as his mother held him close, whispering prayers for his future. Judas grew up in a simple home filled with the smell of baking bread and the sound of stories being told by the fire. He learned about the history of his people, the Israelites, and their long wait for a promised Messiah, a king who would save them from their enemies. Judas was a bright and curious child. He loved to explore the hills around his village, finding hidden streams and climbing tall trees. He had many friends, and they would often play together, acting out stories of brave warriors and wise leaders. As he grew older, Judas became known for his quick mind and practical skills. He was good at managing money and always seemed to know the best way to get things done. People in the village trusted him and often asked for his advice. One day, a man named Jesus came to Galilee. He was a teacher and a healer who traveled from town to town, sharing a message of love and forgiveness. Jesus spoke with great power and authority, and many people were drawn to him. He performed miracles, healing the sick and feeding the hungry. Crowds followed him, eager to hear his words and witness his deeds. Judas heard about Jesus and his teachings. Curious, he wanted to see for himself what this man was like. One afternoon, Judas walked to the nearby town where Jesus was speaking. He stood at the edge of the crowd, listening intently as Jesus told stories about a loving God and a kingdom of heaven. Judas was impressed by Jesus' wisdom and compassion. He saw how Jesus cared for the poor and the outcast, and he felt a stirring in his heart, a sense of hope and excitement. After Jesus finished speaking, Judas approached him. He introduced himself and asked if he could join Jesus and his followers. Jesus smiled at Judas and said, "Come, follow me." Judas was overjoyed. He knew this was a special opportunity, a chance to be part of something important. He left his village and family to join Jesus and become one of his 12 disciples. The disciples traveled with Jesus throughout Galilee and Judea. They listened to his teachings, witnessed his miracles, and helped him spread his message. Judas was a valuable member of the group. He managed their finances and took the job seriously. He was careful with money, always ensuring they had enough to buy food and supplies. As time went on, Judas became increasingly concerned about the condition of his people. The Israelites were under Roman rule, longing for freedom. Many believed the Messiah would be a powerful king who would overthrow the Romans and restore Israel to glory. Judas hoped Jesus was that Messiah. He believed Jesus would eventually lead a revolt. But Jesus' teachings confused him. Jesus spoke of a different kind of kingdom, a kingdom of love and forgiveness. He taught his followers to love their enemies and turn the other cheek. Judas struggled to understand. He believed freedom would only come through force. He began to doubt if Jesus truly was the Messiah he had long waited for. One evening, Jesus and his disciples were gathered in a small room in Jerusalem. They were celebrating Passover, a special holiday remembering the Israelites' escape from Egypt. During the meal, Jesus did something unusual. He took bread, broke it, and said, "This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Then he took a cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood which is poured out for you." Judas was confused. He didn't understand what Jesus meant by offering his body and blood. He felt uneasy and disturbed. After the meal, Jesus told his disciples that one of them would betray him. Shocked, they asked, "Is it I, Lord?" Jesus didn't answer directly, but said, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me." Judas also asked, "Is it I, Rabbi?" Jesus replied softly, "You have said so." A wave of guilt and fear washed over Judas. He knew Jesus understood his thoughts and doubts. He realized he was standing at a crossroads: remain loyal or betray. Judas left the room and went to see the chief priests. He offered to betray Jesus in exchange for money. The priests were overjoyed. They had been searching for a way to arrest Jesus without causing a riot. They agreed to pay Judas 30 pieces of silver. Judas returned to Jesus and the others, pretending nothing had happened. But inside, he was torn. He knew his decision would change everything. Later that night, Jesus and his disciples went to a garden called Gethsemane to pray. Jesus was deeply troubled. He prayed to God for strength. Judas led a group of soldiers to the garden. He had told them he would identify Jesus with a kiss. When they arrived, he approached Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," then kissed him on the cheek. The soldiers arrested Jesus. The disciples fled, overwhelmed by fear. Judas watched as Jesus was led away. He felt both guilt and relief. He had hoped this would lead to change, but something inside him told him it was a terrible mistake. Jesus was taken to the high priest, then handed to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. Pilate ordered Jesus crucified. He was nailed to a cross on a hill called Calvary and died in agony. When Judas heard Jesus had been crucified, he was filled with remorse. He went back to the chief priests and threw the silver at their feet. "I have sinned," he said. "I have betrayed innocent blood." They replied, "What is that to us? That's your responsibility." Judas ran away. He couldn't bear the guilt. Alone, he found a tree and took his own life. His story is a tragic one, marked by betrayal, regret, and devastating choices. But why did Judas betray Jesus? The Bible doesn't give a clear answer. Some say greed drove him. Others think he was disillusioned when Jesus didn't lead a revolt. Some believe he hoped to force Jesus to act. Whatever his motives, Judas' betrayal led to the crucifixion, the central event of Christianity. Jesus' death became a symbol of God's love and forgiveness. Judas' story warns us that even the closest friends can betray. It shows the danger of letting greed or disappointment guide our decisions. It reminds us that even when we make grave mistakes, forgiveness is possible. Jesus forgave Judas. That's a powerful reminder that redemption is always within reach. Judas walked away from that Last Supper, his heart a heavy stone. The other disciples didn't understand. They couldn't see what he saw or what he told himself he saw. He needed to believe he was doing the right thing, even if it felt wrong, even if it tasted like ash in his mouth. The 30 silver coins felt like lead in his pocket, a constant reminder of his decision. He found the temple guards waiting. The night air was cool, but a fever burned inside him. He led them to the garden, Jesus' place of prayer. He saw Jesus kneeling, moonlight glowing on his face. A wave of guilt hit him so hard, it nearly stopped him. He almost ran, but fear kept him moving. He walked slowly, step by step. He placed a hand on Jesus' shoulder. He kissed him on the cheek. A sign of love, a sign of betrayal. "Greetings, Rabbi," he whispered. The guards grabbed Jesus. The disciples stirred. Peter raised his sword. But Jesus stopped him. "Put your sword away, Peter. All who draw the sword will die by the sword." Then he looked at Judas. "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Judas turned away, heart pounding. He watched as they led Jesus away. Had he done the right thing? Would Jesus still fulfill his mission? He followed them in silence. He saw the trial. He heard the lies. He saw Jesus stay calm. He couldn't take it. He ran to the priests. Threw the money down. "I have sinned. I betrayed innocent blood." They didn't care. He was alone. His guilt swallowed him. He wandered away and ended his life under a tree. Judas' name became a symbol of betrayal. But his story isn't simple. It's about a man who lost his way, who couldn't forgive himself. It's about choices and their weight. And it's about the grace that still reaches for us when we fall.